Jeans are freedom. Jeans are America. Find a pair of jeans that isn't made by communism. You can't. And so literally the thing that represents freedom actually is made by communism. When people think of American denim, I want them to think of origin, not blinded by fancy brands and marketing messages, but to know that the cotton in the jeans came from the Tennessee Delta region, from Texas, that it was spun and woven in Tryon, Georgia. It was cut and sewn in Asheboro, North Carolina, and shipped to you. And if you follow the box, that dirt to shirt, field to finish, fiber fabric supply chain exists on this soil. And if there's a strike at the ports, it doesn't affect what we're doing because every component comes from American soil. So this year we'll sell a couple 100,000 pairs of pants. And I call it the uniform of America. You know, a cotton t-shirt, a hoodie, blue jeans, and boots is the uniform of America.
Welcome to the Thought Leader Revolution with Nikki Ballou. Join the revolution. There's never been a better time in history to speak your truth, find your freedom, and make your fortune. Each week, we interview the world's top thought leaders and learn the secrets of how they built a 6 to 7 figure practice. This episode has been brought to you by eCircleacademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. I'm your host, Nikki Ballou, and we have a very special guest lined up for you today. Today's guest is one of the leading lights of the renaissance of American manufacturing in the early 21st century. He is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu master. He is also a close friend and partner of a great American hero, Jocko. I'm speaking, of course, of none other than the one, the only, Pete Roberts. Welcome to the show, Pete.
Thanks for having me. That's quite the introduction. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet, brother. Great to have you here. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. So, Pete, why don't we start by you telling us your backstory, man? How'd you get to be the great Pete Roberts?
Yeah, well, you want the short version or the long version?
Long version. Let's go.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I mean, just a kid from New England, grew up in a small town in Maine. And, you know, I watched a lot of the manufacturing leave as I was a kid, opening the newspaper on the weekends to see, you know, the game we had played the night before, always passing over, you know, the news of another mill shutting down. And so grew up in a small town where footwear manufacturing, was kind of a big deal and supported the community. You know, went into college, played sports, dropped out, started my first business, and then made my first bit of tuition payments, I guess you could say, running that first business when the recession hit in 2008, 2009, ended up losing everything. The thing that kind of kept me on the rails was jiu-jitsu. And training jiu-jitsu and competing in jiu-jitsu, it was my therapy and passion. And after licking my wounds for a short time, decided to take another round at being an entrepreneur. Working for the man never quite fit my ADHD, INFJ personality. So I was always looking to kind of work for myself. I didn't fit into a box, any type of box. And so I was looking at jiu-jitsu and I was like, man, I have a lot of ideas to kind of reinvent this jiu-jitsu gi. And I was a design major in college. I was an art major, sculpture major. So I like to work with my hands. I like to work in 3 dimensions, and decided I was going to reinvent the jiu-jitsu gi. And that was this idea that, you know, I could just do it better because it hadn't been touched in such a long time. I compare it to like when football players used to wear leather helmets, and it would be as if today, being bigger, faster, and stronger, they still wore leather helmets, and jiu-jitsu just hadn't changed, and the uniform hadn't changed. So it was like we were still wearing leather helmets in a way, this uniform. I looked around Maine, couldn't find any manufacturing, and having already lost everything during the recession, you know, I didn't have any capital to really do much, and I ended up importing one jiu-jitsu gi from Pakistan with my design. And that kind of was the seed money. I pre-sold it, and that was the seed money that allowed me to get started. As I got into it, I didn't feel real good about sending tens of thousands of dollars off to Pakistan. And then something happened. And I know everybody as an entrepreneur probably has a defining moment in their life. And mine just happened to be while I was in the Middle East competing in jiu-jitsu in the world championship. I had won my way through this trials, kind of like the Olympic trials for jiu-jitsu. I had won my way to Abu Dhabi, and I was stretching before my match in the quarterfinals, and I saw somebody walk by, and they had this gi I had designed on, and as they walked by, there was a different logo on the back. And in that moment, I had known that I had gotten ripped off, and that was kind of the defining moment where I went all in, head first, arms tucked, with reckless abandon, and probably a crime of passion to say, I'm not doing this way. And I think growing up in the small New England town and seeing the mill shut down, and the fact that what we used to do as makers was gone, and the fact I felt powerless that I couldn't do that anymore, and that I had to continuously send my designs and intellectual property overseas to be made, it really sat heavy. And the defining moment was getting back, calling my buddy and telling him to bring his chainsaw over, that I needed to build a factory. And in the woods behind my house, I marked out some trees and we started cutting them down. And it sounds very romantic. And when I talk about it, I feel like I'm talking about somebody else, but that's exactly what we did. We cut down a bunch of trees in the woods, had a bunch of eastern white pine sawn out into timbers, got a bunch of friends from jiu-jitsu and family members to come and erect a timber frame factory. We started up a generator and started sewing stuff. And there wasn't really any plan. Again, it was a crime of passion, but I had an absolute singleness of purpose that I was going to make this thing in America, and I died trying. So yeah, man, that was the beginning of Origin. That was 2013 when we started cutting those trees down. And now, and there's a lot in between then and now. I mean, there's a lot in between, and we could get into it. But as far as like the backstory, that's the backstory. Of course, Origin, and then I founded Jocko Fuel with my partner Jocko, a nutritional brand, and ever since I've just been grinding, driving both these brands, building these two monsters, I like to call them, because they like to eat time and cash. So just trying to keep these two monsters fed. I know 400 or 500 employees spread over multiple states, and just living into the mission.
Wow, it's quite the story. I got to tell you. I'm a weirdo because I collect knives.
Nice.
I own 130 knives and swords all around my house. And I've become buddies with Ernest Emerson, the founder of Emerson Knives. Now, you may not know who Ernest is, but I think Jocko knows him. In fact, Ernie told me he knows Jocko. He's the man who invented the tactical folding knife for the United States Navy SEALs back in the 80s.
Wow, nice.
So it's called the CQC-7 for Close Quarters Combat 7. It's a really cool knife, and it was designed with what's called a wave. Let me see if I have one lying around here. I may have an Ernest Emerson knife here. Here we go. So this is an Emerson knife. And you see this little feature here. It's a wave. So you put this in your jeans,
okay,
and you pull it out. It'll deploy. It'll catch on the edge of your pocket. It'll self-deploy on the way out. So it gives you an extra second getting your knife out that way. It's pretty cool. And he did this for the SEALs and back in the day. And Ernie also said to me when I interviewed him on my podcast, he said, America gave me my start. America gave me everything I have. So I'm going to make all my products here in America. Now, God bless him. He started his company in California in the 70s, and he's still in California. So I don't know how much longer that's going to last.
That's right.
But, I got to know quite a few knife makers. So there's also a fella named Greg Medford out of Arizona. He makes all his knives in Arizona.
Yeah.
There's 2X Green Berets in North Carolina. They made Spartan blades. Curtis Iovito and Mark, I forget Mark's last name. I'm better buddies with Curtis. And I've just been fascinated because they've been at the forefront of making knives in the United States and selling knives made in the US with American workers to people. Now, when I heard about Origin through Ryan, I'm like, wow, this sounds like a pretty cool company. How the heck are they doing this? How are they making clothes and boots and jeans and gear in America and affordable for people to buy? Now, not, cheap, because it's not cheap, but it's at a good, your stuff's at a decent price, right? People can buy your prices. And I want to just understand from your point of view, first of all, why was this important to you to do it in America? And secondly, how have you made it work?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, tie a couple of things together, how we've made it work and why it's important. And also, I'm going to have to look into one of those knives, the Spartan knives, because I am a Spartan. My family came over from Sparta, Greece.
Dude.
So, yeah.
Hey, I'll hook you up, man. I'll hook you up. We'll talk offline. I'll hook you up.
So I'm very, very Greek. And that leads me into my papu, who was a first generation American. And he grew up in Peabody, Massachusetts, but he used to work in the Peabody tannery when he was a little boy, 8 years old. And he used to tell me, Pete, you got to have that Spartan grit. He used to be in there and pull tacks out of the hides by hand. And he was paid by the piece. And his yaya, my great grandmother, who just passed in like 2010, she lived to like 110 years old. It was crazy.
Wow.
She worked at the Lowell spinning mills. And so, I think when I was a young kid, my papu and yaya used to romanticize about working in the mills. And somehow that got lost on the boomers. I think my mom's generation, the baby boomers, were said, go to college. They told them to go to college, don't work in the mills, don't work in the factories. It's not good work. And so there was this stigma around working in the mills. And I think that between the stigma and then, of course, the decisions that were made in the early 90s, this bipartisan decision, I say bipartisan because both parties were involved in the predatory capitalism and exportation of America's greatest industry of all time, greater than steel and automobiles, textiles. Textiles were the greatest industry in American history. And people don't realize that. And the impact that stripping out the soul of America and sending it to China happened through textiles in a major way. You have factories that are just shells, abandoned, deteriorating. I like to say the people moved out and the pigeons moved in. And it's sad to see when you're driving through these mill towns that I grew up in, that my grandparents worked in, my great-grandparents worked in, gone. And there's just this really sense of hopelessness. And I took it upon myself to fix that. That was the impossible mission. And I'll talk a little bit about the power of purpose and fleeting ideas, but how purpose is gravitational and why it's got to lead ideas and not lag behind them. But it is an impossible mission to this day. And not only, did I want to bring blue jean manufacturing back to America. People ask me why jeans and boots. I say, well, jeans and boots built America. And if we're going to build it again, this renaissance, it has to start with jeans and boots. They're two of the hardest products to build. An asymmetrical thing that's sculpted around a foot, which we call a last, and blue jeans, which there's one factory left in America in Tryon, Georgia, that can weave the fabric for blue jeans. And so when you think about this frail supply chain, when you think about the knowledge that's been exported, the machinery that's deteriorated or sent to sent to the scrap piles, you really take a look and say, that's a stupid idea to want to try to manufacture apparel and footwear in America. It's a bad idea. And it is. It's a bad idea. I guess if you buy into the propaganda that we've been told, which is you can't do it in America, it's a bad idea. I don't buy into that bullshit. I don't buy into the propaganda. And my model, not having been in manufacturing, was, well, I'm just going to do jiu-jitsu on this thing. Like I'm a 3rd degree black belt in jiu-jitsu, and I didn't have any formal business training. I just knew that in jiu-jitsu, timing is everything. Leverage and balance, when to look for the escape, when to tap out, and when to apply pressure. Leverage and angles is the way that I've been able to, I guess you could say, build 2 companies, Origin and Jocko Fuel, simultaneously. It was real hard the first few years of manufacturing. I mean, so hard that, at one point my back was completely against the wall, and, I had to remortgage my house because we just didn't have any capital, and we didn't have anything really meaningful to go raise capital against. There was no assets. It was just an idea. So, we found a way, and I think that resolve that we earned in the early days, has really carried us through, the 2024, 2025, I guess 14 years later, when you really look at the timeline here. And aligning ourselves with the remaining mills that have the knowledge, making commitments to them that we're going to do what we say we're going to do, so that they can give us decent pricing on textiles and carry materials for us. Then training a workforce to be skilled across multiple cells, not just pulling levers and pushing buttons, but a skilled workforce of craftsmen and women, and then unbreakable culture. And you combine those things with a customer who can purchase factory direct, and you kind of strip out the middlemen, and you can then offer a product like we are at a reasonable price, made in America without compromise. And I just kind of bundled that into, a few paragraphs. And I've made a lot of tuition payments trying to get there. And I still am making tuition payments to this day. Big one, but the model, there is a model that works. There is a model that's sustainable. And the fact, and saying we can't do it in America is a lie. So yeah, man, I mean, that's kind of the why I had to do it, and how we got there, I guess.
That's a great story. So I wish I had my head out of my ass a couple years ago when I wrote a book with a great American by the name of Wayne Allen Root. I don't know if you know who Wayne is.
I don't.
But Wayne Allen Root, this is what he looks like. He is, they call him the Donald Trump of Las Vegas. He is a conservative radio talk show host. And I approached him because a mutual friend had introduced us about writing a couple books together. So we agreed to write 2 books together. The first one, I'm trying to find it here. It was called The Great Patriot. Here we go. The Great Patriot Boycott Book, which is a list of 116 woke companies. And we went and we told Americans to stop buying from them. And proud to say we were at the forefront of the Disney boycott. That really took a whole lot of their market cap down, as well as a bunch of other companies. But then we wrote the Great Patriot Boycott Book. This is America's most patriotic companies. And I didn't know you guys then. I would have put you in there. So maybe we need to do a 3rd edition and put you guys there. President Trump endorsed the book. He found out about it. It was really cool. And we're looking for companies that stand for American values and the principles of Americanism. And everything you're saying without you coming out and saying it directly is all about love for country, patriotism, Americanism, everything that made America the most unique nation in the history of the world. I'm a man from the Middle East. I was born in Iran. I'm a Christian from Iran. And when my family left Iran because of the Islamic Revolution, because my mom and dad said this isn't going to be a place to raise a Christian family, we came to the West. We settled in Canada, but I've always been someone who's been wowed by America, by the premise on which she was founded, by the essential goodness of the American people. During World War II, when German soldiers invaded a country, civilians were afraid. They'd hide their daughters, they'd bury their valuables in the yard. Same when the Russians beat the Germans back. Everybody would do the same. They were all out there afraid of these soldiers because these soldiers were out there for themselves. And they had no compunction in attacking the civilian population, stealing from them, raping them, what have you. American soldiers came there with candy bars for little kids. They were the great liberators.
Yeah.
I had the privilege of interviewing Tu Lam. I don't know if you know who Tu Lam is. The character Ronin in Call of Duty is based on Tu.
Okay.
He was on a TV show as well. He's a former Green Beret, and he talks about how he and his family escaped Vietnam to come to the United States. And one of the things that really inspired him was joining the military, joining special forces, becoming a Green Beret, because the motto of the Green Beret is to free the oppressed. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's what America's been all about. Mm. And it strikes me, Pete, I don't know if you've thought about this deeply or not, but it strikes me that that's who you are. You're about liberating the oppressed right here in America, the people who are the craftsmen, it could be the next generation of workers, plus consumers. Because if consumers buy American goods, they're feeding the country that's feeding them, that's giving them the right to be free. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on all that.
Yeah, that's funny. I was told recently that the story reminds another person I was speaking with of Atlas Shrugged, and so I had to look into that, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. And I think what you're saying, for sure has some real legs. The way I look at it is I believe there's going to be a great awakening of the American consumer when the lies that they've been part of are revealed. And so I see it as my job to help people want to know what they're funding, where their dollars go, how things are made, and why it's important to I would say localize. And I know we need world markets and a world economy, and I am pro trade. I'm not against trade. I'm for fair trade. Fair trade is very important. But the impact we have as consumers, to get that quick shot of dopamine, is harmful. Is really harmful, because the largest exportation of wealth in the history of the world is the American dollar going overseas, going to Asia. Like it's just facts, So I think my job here is to kind of reveal the truth and the lies, and help to provide education and a platform for people, to where they can make a better decision, and whatever that decision is on them at that point. But I don't know. I just think there's just been so much noise in the system. I think that brands have had such a strong voice in convincing people to do things. I think politicians and corporations have had such a strong voice in wielding their weapon of capital and power and influence for policy. And I think the American consumer not only is being leveraged for their dollars, but also sent home from their work, which was at one point, meaningful to them. So it's just a really strange environment when you start to dig. And I've been all over the world working on a documentary with a business partner, Steve Best, 7 countries, countless hours, talking with historians and, educated folk, trying to learn about like the how we got here, because it isn't just unique to America. It's all over the place. So, I don't know. So I think, yes, for sure, you're right. And hopefully it just shows people it's possible, and they take a risk themselves and get on board. I don't know. Let's build a gang and make some shit happen.
So, Pete, Atlas Shrugged is the book that I read when I was 20 years old that opened my eyes. I was in university, 3rd year, and I had a paper to write. And a friend of mine had given me this book for Christmas. And I just started reading it. And I couldn't put it down. I was 20 years old, so I had an insane amount of energy then. For that week, all I did was read, work out, eat, and then write my essay. I slept 1 hour that whole week. 1 hour. You've seen that book. It's an 1,100-page book. This is not a tiny book.
I've seen it. I haven't read it, but I've seen it.
Dude, I read it in a week while doing my paper, while not sleeping. It woke me up to this is the world. This is an individual with a dream is the most important person. And the collective is another bullshit name for tyranny to allow a group of elite oligarchs to impose their will and their vision on other people without their consent. That's all the collective really means. What's beautiful about America and what's beautiful about Atlas Shrugged is that America was founded on the premise that an individual has worth, an individual's voice should not be silenced in favor of the collective. And Atlas Shrugged is all about that. They turned Atlas Shrugged into a movie. It's on 3. It's in 3 parts. It was on Amazon Prime, but you can also buy the DVDs. I mean, you can go buy the DVDs and watch them at your leisure. I highly recommend you read the book. Put it near the top of your list. It is an important book for a man like you to read. But watch the movie and just go, holy shit, yeah, this is what it's all about. And Pete, I'm going to throw this out there. You may think I'm crazy, or you may already be doing this. But if you're not, I've written and published 11 books, and many of my books are collaborations. Usually, because I read a lot, I write a lot. I do most of the writing with my collaborators, but they bring a lot of their ideas in there. I'd love to tell your story. I'd love to tell the origin story with you in the form of a book. I'd love to talk with you about that. It is super special what you're doing. It's very important that people understand this, because if we don't feed the arsenal of freedom, the arsenal of democracy is what FDR called America back in World War II days, then slowly but surely the forces of tyranny are going to be able to take over.
They're on our doorstep.
They are. The Communist Chinese Party has got a 200-year plan to be the dominant power in the world. The Chinese are patient,
Very patient.
And we need to see this, because if America falls, like when the Shah's government fell, my family had a place to go to. If freedom falls in America, where are you going to go?
No, it's good. Yeah, I have started writing. I have about 10,000 words I've drafted up. And it's funny because the person I was speaking with, they're like, I don't know, there was something in the book, I guess something in Atlas Shrugged about a person up in New England who had like a world machine or something. I don't know what he was referring to it out. He's like a motor, and he's like, in that loom that you rescued, the last loom left in Maine was like the motor. And I was like, damn, that's kind of cool. It was
cool.
like we found this old loom because we needed to weave fabric, and there was one person that knew how to run it, and we dragged it back to the woods and we made it run again. And it was like the motor that started this thing. And so I know there's a lot of parallels. So I need to dig into it more, but yeah, I think you're spot on with all of that. And I think people need to realize how we got here. I think it's really important in how we educate the next generation. I think podcasts like this and others, they're paying attention to, and they're not paying attention to traditional news sources. They're going and seeking knowledge through avenues that they trust. And platforms that they trust and people that they trust. And so it's really, and I have two kids, one about to be 22, the other one 18, both in college now. But I never talked a lot about news or politics. I only talked to them about ideas and, and how to live life and emotional intelligence and, just your basic upbringing. They didn't get phones till they were 14 years old. And it's strange. It's strange where they both ended up on their own, in a really good place. So I think that generation's smart. This next generation's super smart. I think we don't even realize how smart they are with the information they've been able to extract and separating the truth from the lies themselves. They have a knack for that. Not getting sucked into. I would say a lot of them not getting sucked into emotional decisions and looking at things. I don't know, just with an open mind, yet, what's the word I'm looking for? They almost have like just a knack for like calling bullshit. Like, that's bullshit. I don't trust that person, versus, okay, this thing makes sense. And I like it because they're challenging themselves and those around them. And it versus like, my mom, for instance, who's an avid Fox News watcher, and that's all she does, or my in-laws who they watch Fox News constantly. And if it's on the news, it's true, so, yeah, anyways, I digress.
No, you don't. This is a good part of the conversation. I think the generation that's going to value origin and what it's all about are these kids. These are the kids you need to get to buy your stuff anyways. And I think it's important to be speaking to them through podcasts like this and others.
Yeah.
So it's good. I mean, I have a 16-year-old son and an 18-year-old son. My 18-year-old son was all set to go to university, and he started working for a fitness company. Quick digression, a year and a half ago, I'm 57 now, I was 55. I weighed 227, I was overweight, and I reached the point of being disgusted with myself. So I hired a guy who's a former bodybuilder to get me in shape. He helped me lose 60 pounds.
Damn, that's awesome.
At 57, I did a competition against 35-year-olds. I have abs at 57, which is good, So, and I'm a businessman who's training to when I turn 60 to get my IFBB pro bodybuilding card.
Dang.
Just for shits and giggles, right? So my boy's working with the guy who's my coach. He's got like 15 coaches working for him. He's got a nice company here. Really, really good dude. And he started working for him. And then a month into the summer, he comes to me and he goes, "Dad, you're going to be pissed if I don't go to university and I take a year off?" And I'm like, "What?" He said, "I'm coming to you because I know Mom is going to lose her shit when I tell her this. Right? So I need to get you on my side first." And we talked about it. And he said, "Look, if I go to school, I got to spend that. We put money aside for university, but it's still going to cost quite a bit of money." And he said, "I'm just going to go and party there. I'll study. We'll spend all this money. While I work here, I'm going to make money. And I think I'll learn more this year than I will in university." I've talked to people at the gym who have their kinesiology degree, and they told me they've learned more working here than they did at school. So I said, okay, fine. So I talked to his mom. I said, yeah, let's do that. Let's let him make a decision. And reluctantly, she agreed. And now he's telling me he's there 7 days a week. Pete, 18 years old, 7 days a week. He's up at 5 a.m. every day. He's in the gym by 6. He's training guys. He's educating himself. He's learning about kinesiology, biomechanics, all this stuff. And yes, he's not woke. I know that's a difficult one for you to swallow, but he's not woke. And that's because these kids, they smell bullshit. And the authorities and the powers that be at school everywhere are just feeding them bullshit. And companies like you show them reality and authenticity, and that's why you're going to be able to create strong brand relationships with them. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that, and how are you guys thinking through how to create the brand kind of stickiness for the next generation of customers for you guys?
Yeah, I have, I learned about market dynamics, I guess, later in life. Probably 5 years ago was the first time I actually heard that term, market dynamics. And I heard it from a friend of mine who's also a business partner, a guy named Kip Fulks, and he was the co-founder of Under Armour, and he was also the chief operating officer. And when Kip left the company, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, he called me and he said, "Hey, you don't know me. My name's Kip. My non-compete at Under Armour ran out. I was the co-founder. I'd like to help Origin." And I was unpacking for him one day what this thing was, Origin, and I'll share that with you. And he told me, "Oh, that's called market dynamics." And I was like, okay, well, I've never heard that term. I look at it like a triangle. At the top of the triangle, you have, or you could even say a diamond, let's say. At the top of the triangle, you have the greatest generation. On one corner, you have the boomers. On the bottom, you have the fort builders, the Gen Xers. That's my generation, is the Xers, right? And then you have this other generation, like our kids, and what you have is you have a relationship between the greatest generation and the Gen Xers. We spent time with our grandparents. We spent time listening to their stories. We spent times hearing them talk about the war, about working in the mills and factories, about their parents coming over with nothing, immigrating with nothing, all for the American dream, risking it all on the American dream. And so you have this real firsthand experiential knowledge. Then you have the boomers who are just like kind of rebellious, like, they got beat as kids, you know what I mean? They went to Woodstock and you have Xers, which are like, they weren't raised by the greatest generation, so they got the best from them. They only got the good stuff from them, the stories and the soul of America. And I call the Xers fort builders, because we were the last generation that were raised without technology. We only got technology when we hit college, right? And all of a sudden, boom, the internet hit 1997. We have technology and phones and iPods and all that bullshit, and it's changed the world. But before that, we had the plan. We had to call our friends and say, "I'll meet you at 7 o'clock in the morning." We had to wait for the streetlights to come on. We crashed our big wheels. We got bloodied up. We drank from the garden hose. So you have this like generation of just like gritty individuals. And then you have this new generation, our kids. They've never walked foot in a factory. They don't know how things are made. They're super smart and they're getting all their information from these sources, but it's information through digital devices. And so it's not tangible. And I think the company that can connect what they're looking for, right? And Origin sits in the middle of this diamond, this wave of freedom, of reclamation. The company that can connect what they're looking for, which is they're looking for something experiential. They're looking with all this knowledge now to experience something tangible. They want to touch it, feel it, smell it, understand it, be connected to it. And I believe we as a company have this great opportunity to connect them to what once was, which was we used to build things to be durable, to outlast, utilitarian. They would be overbuilt because everything America made was built as survival gear because we were at war. And So things used to be built to last, and they're not anymore. And I think once this new generation realizes that and realize those stories, and they see this conduit between what once was and what could be, and because they're so smart, that we're going to convert them into customers, and we are in a major way. I mean, both through Origin and Jocko Fuel, my nutritional company. We're seeing it in our growth and in numbers and everything. And that is the market dynamics of which Origin exists. And again, I learned that it was market dynamics just a short time ago. For me, it was just the plan.
All of that. Never heard market dynamics before. Heard a lot of other terms around markets, but this was really beautifully explained. And as you were saying this, a couple of ideas came to me. I had this vision of like a film crew following you and the team around in the factory as you're doing shit, and just filming them building things, doing things, and then having conversations with a fellow on a line and saying, "What are you doing? Why is this important?" And then turning that into a whole bunch of clips, putting it out on an Origin kind of I don't know, Rumble page or YouTube page or whatever, what have you, or X page, and then I see Origin also going to local schools and saying, "Hey, we're looking for young boys who would like to come and have a tour of the factory, and we're going to provide them with a lunch or whatever, but we want to show what a potential career building things in America could look like." Because here's the truth, Pete. I have a good friend of mine. I run a men's group. That's how I know Ryan Mickler, right? We're both into this whole men's stuff. I mean, it's not a business for me the way that it is for him. It's a labor of love. I do other things for business, but the guy who runs the group with me, he works with his hands. He's got a landscape construction company. Him and his brother run it together. And his biggest complaint the last 4 years has been, it's hard to find young men who want to work with their fucking hands. You know what I mean? Are you hearing this as well? Because
I would say that if we didn't have the gravity in the community, I would agree. But because we've been at it for over a decade, most of our workforce is between 20 and 30 years old. So like a lot of the kids that work for us are kids that like, yeah, I want to work with my hands or be in the trades. I really am not interested in college. And so we found like a really, really good group of humans, both boys and girls, men and women, that, right out of high school have started with us and have been with us and have stayed with us.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I would say, it hasn't been as hard in this little spot in Western Maine where there's not a lot of other opportunities. But I could see kids who didn't grow up fishing and hunting and processing their own animals and deer. And, it's a little bit like grittier. Like, I mean, Maine it's cold. It's like Canada, right? It's cold. It's unforgiving. A lot of these folks grow up, where they're splitting 10 cords of wood. So they're pretty calloused individuals by the time they get out of high school. They're definitely not soft. But I have heard that there is, kind of teaching kids to get their hands dirty again. It is a slippery slope.
Yeah. So when I was thinking of this, I thought to myself, what could be cool is maybe the second book you write is the case against a college education in 2024, 25, 26. And there have been a few guys who've been talking about this. Patrick Bet-David from Valuetainment actually wrote a book saying, this is why I don't think you need a college degree. My son is not going to go to college. He's told me flat out. Now, I want him to do Peterson University online. I signed up for that myself. It's been good. I've been taking some of the courses. The nutrition course was really good. The storytelling course is good. But he doesn't want to go to school. He wants to work 7 days a week. He wants to learn on the job, and he wants to make money. And I got to tell you, I like that. I think college today is unless you're going to do something like, become a doctor, a surgeon, something along those lines where you're going to learn skills that you're going to immediately apply. It's a waste of time and money. You've got all these woke left-wing fools in academia that are trying to indoctrinate your kids to hate their parents, hate America, hate the Western tradition. Who the hell needs that? What are your thoughts on that?
It's definitely a polarizing society. I think, for both my kids, I said, go to college, don't go to college. It doesn't matter. Like college is important if there's something you want to learn, because you're going to pay somebody to teach you. So it's not, it's not necessary. My son decided he wanted to go and get his business degree. And my daughter, she was kind of on the fence, and we'll see. She's in her freshman year. We'll see if she sticks it out. But she went for fashion and textile design because they both want to work in the business, him on the business side and her on the, and there's one school left in America which has a true fashion and textile program, and that's North Carolina State and Raleigh, North Carolina.
NC State.
So she's part of the Wolf Pack. So, So yeah, and her boyfriend, who they're very serious, he's like, I'm not going to college. I'm gonna go into the trades. And I'm like, cool, like good route. I mean, the kids in trades are killing it. And of course, everyone that works for me in the factory, some of them went to university. I've got one kid got his degree in biology and he works in the footwear plant. So just because you go to university or go to college doesn't mean that is the path you end up following. And I myself am a college dropout. So I think that college is an option and should be weighed equally against all the other options. I don't think it should be weighted above the other options. And I think that's where, for me, it's not one versus the other. It's here's college as an option. Here's the trades as an option. Here's OJ just on the job training. Like, what do you want to do? What are you interested in? College is always there. If you want to go explore that, it's not going anywhere. You know what I mean? And so, like, don't rush into it if you don't want to. And I think that is really where, at least my friends and the influences around me, that's where their minds are at. That's where my mind is at. I don't pay too much attention to the extremists. I try to block out a lot of the noise. But I do believe that America is broken, and I think education has really taken a beating. It's taken a real beating as of late. I'm nervous for these really young kids right now, and some of the things that they're going to be exposed to and experience as they go through school. So they got to have strong home lives. They got to have strong parents. They got to have strong community outside of school, and they got to know who they are. And I think that it's, that's the job of the educators, is not to raise your kids. That's your job. And, I think my daughter, she wasn't really liked by some of the teachers because she just had such strong opinions and such a powerful voice that didn't match with their ideology. And I said, yeah, you got to have a voice, Chloe. This is America. You can have a voice.
Amen. Amen. Good for you. Good for her. God bless her. So, I think what you guys are doing is great. And I think it'd be great for you to do things like videotape what you're doing and put it out there on social media channels and podcasts and show people what it looks like to actually build things without giving away any secrets, of course.
Sure. Yeah.
I also think it's a good idea for you guys to do, factory visits by local kids, young boys, and have them come in for a day and see what it's like. I think that'd be really, really fantastic. And we'll get a lot of people excited about working with you. And for whatever it's worth, and not that I want to give you more things to do, but I think you should start some sort of a peer alliance of American manufacturers who think like you. There should be people like Origin in there, like Ernest Emerson and some of these other knife companies, and other folks who are building things in America. This organization ought to meet at least annually and talk about things to support other manufacturers and put out messaging out there in the world to encourage young entrepreneurs to do things in America, and also, frankly, to to do some lobbying of government officials going forward to start being more pro-American.
Yeah.
Say whatever you want to say about Donald Trump. I happen to be a fan, but the greatest thing about this guy is he said, let's make America great again. Let's have America be first. Let's have its citizens be first. And let's make sure that people that do business in America, people that create jobs in America and bring innovation to America are the ones that are celebrated and rewarded. And I think he's 100% correct. And that's the beauty of Origin USA as far as I'm concerned.
I think it's hard to see your neighbors, starving, hopeless, without purpose. And when you live in real America and you see that, it's hard not to say what went wrong and why isn't anybody fixing this and what can I do about that? So I think a lot of folks don't understand that is that message, how important it is. It's the country's broken. I compare, I was telling somebody recently, if you take Europe, all of Europe, now think about Europe, think about the tip of Italy, like all the way up through England, Scotland, right? It's how many languages and cultures do you have there? Between France,
30 at least. Yeah.
The square miles of America and the square miles of Europe are, I don't know, a couple, maybe 10,000 or something. It's the same size. And so when you think about the United States, me up in Maine and Joe Schmo down in California, you don't think we're going to have differences? I mean, where we're raised culturally after 250 years, you don't think there's going to be differences? Could you imagine if in Europe you tried to force everybody and pigeonhole everybody, but this experiment we call America is so very important that there is alignment and unification. And what I see is I see a lot of division happening right now. And I say, well, factories used to be the unifying thing. Factories where everybody from all these cultures, whether you're Greek or French or Irish or Italian, you melted into the factories. You did hard things together. You built hard things together. You walked away at the end of the day. You look back and you say, we did that. And I think America's missing that. I think Origin, is a glimmer of hope, and for me, jiu-jitsu is the other place you find that. You find everybody, regardless of background or where they're from, coming together, passionate about one thing. It's the melting pot that America once was. And I think having more of those types of experiences would be tremendous because we are so separated at this point. I mean, and yeah, I don't know where it's going to go, man. I think you just got to do the right things for the right reasons.
So I'm very optimistic that America's best days are ahead of her. Ronald Reagan used to say that America's like that shining city on a hill, and that her best days are ahead of her. And I believe that very strongly. The last few months, it almost appears like God is watching out for America. And the reason I say that is, on July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania, someone tried to take out Donald Trump. And it looks like God turned his head and that bullet scratched his ear instead of blew his brains out. And, ever since then, there just seems to be a sense in the culture that people can be themselves again, that they can express their First Amendment rights. And I think that's what's made America special all this time. And companies like yours are out there building things in America and making communities strong. I'm very hopeful for America. And I'm very grateful that a man like you exists and a company like yours exists. And I want you to know that it's not just me. There's hundreds of thousands of people all around the world that are looking at you and seeing what you're doing, and they get hope from that. So you should feel really good about that.
No, I appreciate that. I do.
Yeah. So look, let's talk about some of your products. Let's go nitty gritty into what's some of the cool stuff you build, because I'm interested. And I wear jeans and t-shirts, except if I have a business meeting with some hoity-toity dude.
Yeah.
This is how I dress. So there you go.
The blue jeans. I mean, we brought blue jean manufacturing back to America. We rescued a dying factory in Asheboro, North Carolina, a couple years ago. This old timer Wally would have taken it to his grave. Spent 20 hours negotiating it with him, and he ended up selling the factory to us. And it was a denim plant, and it was the last denim plant at scale left in America. And it was the last wash house left east of the Mississippi. So it was the last bit of infrastructure. So you have one mill that can weave denim, and now you have one mill that can manufacture denim at scale. And that's the one we bought. We put millions of dollars into renovating it. And blue jeans is just so important to me because it's the only other thing that undeniably unites humanity besides our DNA. Everybody, regardless of where you live or what time you're from or where you're from, loves blue jeans. And I think about the fall of the Berlin Wall. I remember watching freedom unfold and men in jeans wielding sledgehammers, smashing that wall down. And it's like, that is freedom. Jeans are freedom. Jeans are America. And guess what? We sold it all away. Find a pair of jeans that isn't made by communism right now. You can't.
Oh, God.
And so literally the thing that represents freedom actually is made by communism. And so it was really important for us to bring blue jean manufacturing back to America. I want, when people think of like American denim, I want them to think of origin. Not blinded by fancy brands and marketing messages, but to know that the cotton in the jeans came from the Tennessee Delta region, from Texas, that it was spun and woven in Tryon, Georgia. It was cut and sewn in Asheboro, North Carolina, and shipped to you. And if you follow the box, you're going to end up in a field talking to a farmer. And that supply chain, that dirt to shirt, field to finish, fiber fabric supply chain exists on this soil. And if there's a strike at the ports, it doesn't affect what we're doing because every component comes from American soil. So blue jeans is really important to the future success of Origin. I've committed to making 1 million pairs of jeans a year. I'm hoping that we get there within the next few years. This year we'll sell a couple 100,000 pairs of pants. And footwear is the other thing, man. Boots built by freedom. Made in America, and I call it the uniform of America. You know, a cotton T-shirt, a hoodie, blue jeans, and boots is the uniform of America. You look at the old photos of the dudes building the big steel structures in New York City, sitting on the edge of the beam, and they're wearing blue jeans and boots, and gritty, hardworking Americans. And I just think for us, for Origin, like those things are so important to our DNA, not just of the brand, but of this mission we call breathing life back into the dream. And that's our mission, is to breathe life back into the dream. So on the Origin side, originusa.com, like, we always love the support. We need it. I got 50,000 pairs of jeans in stock that we've made for this holiday season. So go get some. We've got $12 million of inventory. That's my cost in stock. So go get some, and know that every dollar you spend doesn't leave American soil. That's really important. And of course, we're trying to not only put on people what they need, but in their bodies the same thing. And so Jocko Fuel, which is my other company, started with Jocko. Origin actually started the company in 2017. You know, we're trying to get it within arm's reach of every household in America. So you can find Jocko Fuel at jockofuel.com, and local retailers like Walmart and others, Vitamin Shop and, you know, HEB, all sorts of places. So, you know, they're two companies that continue to scale, and our brand affinity is like 99%. Like, once people enter the brands, they don't leave, just because, you know, like I was saying before, folks want to be part of something real. They want to touch, feel, smell, be part of it. It's got to be experiential. It just can't be. It can't be without purpose. So, yeah, man, yeah.
Those are great products. So I'll tell you, There's two ads. I'm going to see if I can send them to you, find them to you, and send them to you on YouTube that I think you guys ought to look and create your own version of them. There's one called Hello Trouble by Gerber Knives. You got to watch this ad. It is the manliest, coolest fucking ad in the world.
I'd love to see it.
Dude, you like, it'll give you goosebumps.
What is it called? Hello? I'm going to write.
Hello Trouble. Gerber Knives, Gerber, Gerber Knives. Just see if you can find it, watch it. And the other one is called, it's the Encounter Collection. It's about this leather bag. You got to watch these ads. They tell stories in a beautiful way. The Hello Trouble follows a bunch of tough, manly men wearing jeans with knives, getting into all kinds of trouble and shit.
Really?
There's a little narrative over it. And then you watch this and you want to go buy a knife.
Okay. I gotta see. I need this. I gotta see.
Dude, I'm gonna send you. Listen, I'm gonna email you my personal cell number, and I'll send you shit like this anytime you like. But I'm a dude who's into this kind of stuff. I'm into messaging, selling. That's my whole gig. Like I'm the king of action, market, and sell. But the other one, the Encounter Collection, is a letter written by a father in World War II who died, written to his son. Like he died before his son became an adult, right?
Yeah.
So Buddy's saying, "Hey son, if you're reading this letter, I didn't make it back, and here's my message to you, to my advice to you to help you win in life." And there's a beautiful narrative about, what kind of man to be, how to be in life, what things to value. Makes you cry. And it's an ad. Buddy, it's an ad and you want to cry. And I'm thinking to myself, Origins Away, God bless Gerber Knives, God bless the Encounter Collection. Origins a way better, more emotionally powerful story than either one of these. You take some of these and create some stories with dudes wearing jeans and doing hard work out there and wearing your boots, and a father, maybe do like a thing of a father who passes away in an accident or something, and he was wearing his stuff, and he's got a letter for his son, old-fashioned letter. The son figures out. I'm going, man, this could tell some really good stories for you guys.
We had a real situation recently. We got a letter from a woman, and
really,
she wrote about her husband in his origin jeans and how important they were to him. And when he passed away, he wanted to be buried in his origin jeans.
Wow.
It's not anything we've ever put out there or would for but I think that there's something there as far as like, it's important, and people that come into the brand, they're not shopping for fashion. They're not, and I'll talk about it in a little bit, but there's purpose behind their actions. There's purpose behind their investment. They're not spending for the sake of spending. It's very thoughtful. I'm going to watch this. And there's another ad I like. I haven't ever seen these ones, but I think it's called So God Made a Farmer. And I think it was either a Ford commercial, maybe. I don't know if you've ever seen that one. It's really, really powerful. You probably like that one too. Yeah. But I appreciate it. I'm going to watch these after we get off here.
You should. You'd get a ton out of them. I think, Pete Roberts, you ought to be like the Elon Musk of this industry. You should be world famous, not to be famous for the sake of like being an influencer or some bullshit like that, but because you got a powerful message, and I think you're going to inspire a lot of people to do the right thing. And frankly, I think it's going to get you a shit ton of customers, more than Origin can handle. I think that if you get to that level, everything you make will sell out like that. Just boom, 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 boom. There'll be a lineup of 10,000 kids begging to work for you, and there'll be private equity dollars like bringing you hundreds of millions and billions of dollars and going, we want to invest. How do we invest? How do we get in on this? That's what allowed Elon Musk to take all of his brands to the level that he's done. I think you ought to be that guy. And, for whatever it's worth, if that's something you ever want to talk about offline, I'd be honored to talk to you about it, because
Awesome.
What you're doing is super, super important. So look, I'm just going to say for myself, I'm old school. I hate all this stretchy jean bullshit. You know what I mean? I like 100% cotton. You guys ever going to make 100% cotton jeans?
Yeah, next year we're making, so I negotiated with our mill.
Good.
We're getting the cotton at good pricing, and we're going to be able to add a sub $100, 100% cotton jean to our lineup. It's probably going to end up being an ounce. Yeah, so it's coming next fall, 2025. Yep, we're doing it.
So look, for whatever it's worth, I'm not, I'm a decent looking 57-year-old man. I'd like to model those jeans for you for free.
Okay.
I want to be your poster child for
I'll
it.
get them over to you.
I just want to be the first guy who gets to buy them. That's all. Because I love 100% cotton jeans.
Nice.
My lady bought me the stretch jeans. I put them on once. I took them off. I said, I can't wear these. Get rid of these. Get them out of here. This is just horse shit. And your boots look like they're fantastic as well. I'd love to get them here in Canada. I don't know if it's only possible to order them online.
I can get the team to ship you some. Probably some mock toes would be best. But yeah, I can get those sent out.
I got really wide feet.
Yeah, they'll fit. I got like 4E feet. They'll fit fine.
Oh, beautiful. A man after my own heart. Okay, so we're talking jeans. Let's talk about the gi. Let's talk about the gear, where you guys got started.
Yeah.
So what's so damn special about an Origin gi? What's all the fuss about?
Yeah, I mean, outside of the fact it's made by magic. No, the Origin gi is the only gi in the world that's not only made in America, built by Freedom, but is built for performance. So the way we built the pants actually was based around blue jeans. So we looked at blue jeans. Other gi pants, other jiu-jitsu pants, they more fit like trash bags where you cinch it closed, right? So the waist is huge and you cinch it. Our pants are built with innovation. And then our jackets, we weave all the material, proprietary material in our factory in Maine. And we have different weaves. You know, we have a raptor weave, we call it, and we have this American pearl weave, and it's just a really good quality, handmade, innovative, performance-based product. And you know, and I think since we started manufacturing gis, and I was trying to figure out how many returns we've had because of failures, and then how many gis we've actually made. It was something like less than 200 returns for failures over the course of a couple 100,000 units.
Shut up. That's
It's
insane.
an insane statistic, almost unbelievable statistic, but true. I even had a guy at our annual immersion camp this year who had bought one of our first made in America jiu-jitsu gis, and he was still wearing it. He was a black belt, and it just continues to wear in. It's phenomenal construction. So, yeah, I mean, if folks are looking for something to last a lifetime, then they want to buy an Origin gi. That's for damn sure.
I'm 57 years old, and buddies of mine are doing jiu-jitsu, and they're telling me, you should try this. I've never done this. I go, I don't know. Should I? Shouldn't I? I just love seeing that masculine camaraderie in there. So I'm guessing because you're a third-degree black belt in jiu-jitsu, you're going to tell me, yeah, you should do it. Stop being a pussy. And I'm kind of like, okay, I'll bite the bullet and go to a class, because everybody I know and I respect practices jiu-jitsu.
It's
crazy.
Jiu-jitsu built my companies. Like jiu-jitsu philosophies built my companies. I tell people all the time, like, if it wasn't for jiu-jitsu, I wouldn't be even close to where I am. I give it to jiu-jitsu, and you absolutely should train. It's gonna open new parts of your mind that you're gonna put yourself through things you probably never experienced. Jiu-jitsu is just this really, I don't even know how to explain it. It almost seems magical, but when you play life or death with friends, and you have to learn how to retrain your body and your mind to think about adversity. It opens new synapses. It's a really wonderful gift. And if you allow yourself to go through the first 6 months or 12 months, you will become addicted to it, because jiu-jitsu is basically it's a way of solving problems. And so when you learn how to solve problems, you take those problems solving skills into your business, into your life, into your marriage, into leadership, and it changes the way you look at the world. It changes your worldview. It's really wild, really wild.
I had the privilege of interviewing Royce Gracie on the podcast a couple years ago. And to be, one of the cool things about what I do is every so often I get to interview the very best in the world at whatever the heck it is that they do. And Royce being one of those folks. He was the first person I had on my show when he spoke to me about jiu-jitsu, when it was like, he kind of woke up the thought in me that maybe I should try this at some point, because I just thought to myself, up until last year when I was overweight, 55, the thought in my head was it'd be nice to get in shape again, but it's probably too late for me. I'm old now, right? It's not going to happen. And when I got disgusted enough with myself to want to do something about it, and I hired this coach who was 20 years younger than I am, and I told him, the first question I asked him was, do you think a man my age can get in really great shape again? And his answer immediately, no hesitation, was abso-fucking-lutely yes. Yes and hell yes. And he showed me pictures of all kinds of guys my age and older that had done it. So, I think this is a good thing. I think I ought to do it, and I think other people ought to do it as well.
It'll change your life.
Yeah, amen. Amen. So, Pete, if folks are interested in buying your products, if they're interested in finding out more about the origin story, if there's folks who want to maybe even arrange to come and tour your factory, what's the best way? Where do you want me to send them?
Yeah, I mean, originusa.com is kind of our, we only have one channel where we sell stuff, and that's like the best place to look. We do have Instagram. It's Origin USA on Instagram. My own Instagram is pete.origin. And then we have a YouTube channel, also Origin USA. So, that's like the places you can learn more about us. And, we've captured the journey over the years on YouTube, and, on Instagram, we share insights, and of course, through the web is where you can actually support what we're doing and help rebuild America.
Amen. Amen. So you sell all your gear through the website?
Yep. For Origin, it's a one-channel strategy. We'll open up stores probably in 2026 in some strategic locations, but right now it's a one-channel business.
Damn. Okay. Yeah. Got it. Yeah. That's how Ernie Emerson sells his knives. He used to have dealers, but now everything gets sold on his website. And the crazy thing is he sells out of everything. And I mean everything. I ought to connect you with Mr. Emerson. I think the two of each other would like each other.
That'd be great.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He's a really, really good dude. Okay, great. So we'll make sure we put all that in the show notes. I'll reach out to you offline to get some of this stuff shipped to Canada. I'll give you my credit card. So I think that'd be great.
No, we'll get it shipped up on us.
Very gracious of you, my friend. And we'll make sure, look, folks, Black Friday season's coming up. Christmas is coming. Buy some jeans, buy some boots, buy some gis, and go get yourself some Jocko fuel. It's a way that you're going to be supporting America, and you're going to be supporting freedom. I'm going to call this episode, Pete, with your permission, Built by Freedom, the Origin USA story.
Please, and absolutely.
I think that's a good name for the episode. And if you ever start your own podcast, maybe that should be the name of the podcast, Built by Freedom, with featuring Pete Roberts, man.
I have thought about it. I had a podcast years ago that was pretty successful, but I stopped it about 5 years ago to focus on this documentary that we've been filming, which has taken 5 years. but yeah, I know I've thought about it.
You know what? It's a good thing. It's funny. Ernest Emerson had a podcast up until 2019 as well, the Ernest Emerson podcast. It was very successful. He had Leif Babin on it, who's Jocko's partner in his Echelon Front business. He had Ben Greenfield. He had Evan Hafer from Black Rifle Coffee. Yeah. Those guys were all on his show, and then he stopped it too because he got too busy because he likes building shit. So he's one of these he's one of these dudes who actually goes on the factory floor and builds knives.
Yeah.
And now, just because he's not busy enough in his old age, he's decided to hand build guitars as well.
That's crazy.
Yeah, God bless him. So Pete, we like to end off every episode by asking you, our guest expert, what are your top 3 expert action steps? These are your 3 best pieces of advice for my listener to take their life, their business, what have you, to the next level. So what say you?
Yeah, I mean, I everything I have learned is, a regurgitation, of something I've experienced and or something somebody said to me that had an impact on my life. I think that's really important. And just to start off with, I'd say number 1 is somebody told me once when my back was against the wall and I couldn't find any way out. He said, "You're not special. Your ideas aren't special, and nobody gives a shit." And I was seeking advice from this gentleman, and it really put me on my heels. And he said, "If you believe in what you're doing, you have to go all in." And at the time, I was about 30 years old. And he said, "Pete, how old are you?" It's 30 years old. He said, "From 0 to 20, you're learning. From 20 to 60, you're doing. And hopefully at 60, you're enjoying the fruits of your labor." He said, "Anything great in life takes 10 years. He's like, "You're 10 years in and you have 4 chances. It doesn't matter if the first time it doesn't work out, you still have 3 chances." And that really stuck with me. Anything great in life takes a decade to do, takes 10 years. So if you're going to do something, you got to be willing to commit a decade to it if you want to build something meaningful. And you have 4 chances of doing that. Some folks have more than that. So that's the first bit of advice. The second one is,
like that.
Ideas are fickle. Ideas are fleeting. And what's more important than ideas is purpose and the power of purpose. And I like to say purpose, the power of purpose is the gravity. It will lead ideas. It will pull ideas along with it. And so if you don't have purpose and you just have an idea, that's why most businesses fail. That's why the percentage is so low of businesses that fail, because people have an idea, but they don't have purpose. And so the power of purpose will take you to places you never knew you could go. And you'll definitely earn emotional calluses in those places, and maybe even get a bit of what I call CEO shingles if you really go into those deep places. But again, everything great in life takes 10 years to build. And a little bit more, I guess, the last bit of advice I'll give is I believe that market share as we know it is dying. I believe that market share, the way it was once built, is an old model. And people want to be part of something meaningful, and they want to be part of something experiential. And this goes back to my market dynamics conversation. So with so much noise in the market, with so many people, with so many things to say, I don't chase fleeting market share. I try to gain mind share. Number 1, I want to show and educate and create value for the person. That's number 1. The second thing is soul share. I want to touch their soul like no one ever has when it comes to a company's mission, a company's responsibility, a company's ethics, a company's vision. And I want to pull them into it. And if I can gain their mind share, if I can gain their soul share, then market share is the byproduct of doing those things. And it's a winning model. So those are the 3, I guess, expert action steps, or 3 pieces of advice that I would give that I've never, I don't think, shared on a podcast, because I have a keynote speech that I go around giving, and those are part of my keynote speech. So hopefully your listeners, hopefully they resonate.
Dude, I'm honored that you shared that here for the first time on a podcast, first of all. Secondly, I just want to tell you, this is the 600 and change episode of this podcast, and I got a men's podcast. I've done almost 170 on that. I've interviewed some really, really super smart people. These are the 3 very best expert action steps I've ever heard.
Oh, geez, thank you. Thank you.
Dude, like, fuck me. These are good. Like, damn. Okay.
They will be in my book. Maybe you could just read the first 10,000 words for me and tell me if it's trash or not. Yeah?
Done.
Yeah, awesome.
Done. You got it. And listen, no joke. I would be honored to help you with the book, and I'll be honored to help you write it. I don't want any money. I don't want nothing.
I just
want to help you do it. It's a special thing you do, and it's an important thing you do, and the world needs more of you. And as far as I'm concerned, I think Origin USA should be one of the leading companies in America over the next 30, 40, 50, 100 years. And when you're gone, I think the company should outlast you. I think there should be towns all over Maine, all over America that are building things in America. And the origin idea of starting with textiles should then spread to everything else that's built using specialized manufacturing knowledge. And one day, you know how in certain markets there are some brand names that have become verbs, like Kleenex. You don't say tissue paper, you say, get me a fucking Kleenex, right?
Yeah.
I want people to say about origin, hey, are you going to origin it?
The origin model.
Origin it. Are you going to origin it? Are you going to go there and origin it? You're going to start it here in your hometown, in your backyard, in the woods. Is that how you're going to do it? And I want everyone to know what the hell that means when someone says that, because
I'm there. It's 100-year brand. It's going to transcend my life. I say it all the time. So,
amen. And these expert action steps are really good. So, listeners, Pete Roberts and Origin USA are the real deal. I strongly, strongly encourage you to go to jockofuel.com, originusa.com, check out what they do. But more than that, support them. Buy some shit. You know, like, Christmas is coming. You got stuff you want to buy for people. What better way to show you care about somebody than to buy them something that's going to last them? Not some piece of apparel that'll, break apart after 10, 15 washes, but something that will last them 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Why not buy them a pair of boots that honestly are going to be so good that when they pass on, their grandkids are going to go, shit, these are good boots. I'm going to take grandpa's boots. Like that's what you got to be thinking about. And you want to support people that come here. So I'm glad that you as listeners support authors when they come here with their books. That's awesome. Support a company that's trying to bring freedom back. Built by freedom is something worth preserving. Pete, my man, thank you for coming on my humble show. It's been a real honor. God bless you for who you are and what you do.
I appreciate it. Thank you much.
Yeah, you bet. And that wraps up another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. To find out more about today's guest, the one and only Pete Roberts, go to his websites for his companies, originusa.com, jockofuel.com. Go to wherever you listen to this episode, be it on our website, thethoughtleaderrevolution.com, or iTunes, Spotify, Rumble, YouTube, blah, 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 blah. And make sure that you share this episode with a friend of yours that believes in freedom. Make sure you share this episode with a friend of yours that needs to hear a message of encouragement. Because what Pete had to say, especially in his 3 expert action steps, to be purpose-driven, to not take yourself so seriously because you're not really special and you've got at least 4 kicks at making something good happen, and to not go for market share, but instead to go for soul share and mind share. I mean, these are gold. Everybody needs to hear this. Until next time, bye-bye.
This episode has been brought to you by eCircleAcademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.